Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. As always, great to be here. Just realizing I probably should have checked the numbers today. I'm super close to 200 live sessions, which is just kind of crazy, but that's kind of part of the YouTube journey as you keep going. The live sessions keep going on. Um, but again, as always, thank you so much for being here, and we're going to slowly warm into this session as we're hitting the end of February. We're obviously seeing a lot of interesting economic indicators. And, however long we go today, we're definitely going to want to spend some time discussing, kind of what's going on in the job market. I want everybody's questions, comments, everything to come in because the job market's looking pretty funky right now. And so it's something that we should definitely be chatting about today. And so as you're coming into this session, always nice to let me know where you're visiting from. Just say hello. Can you see and hear me? All those nice warm and fuzzies. But we'll slowly warm into this session. And so if you've been here before, you know that I'm always going to start by going backwards instead of going forwards. Hey, Liz, good to have you here. So yesterday's video was a video on handling stress and pressure. And so, again, like there's such an easy way to tackle that question, like, oh, I handle stress by doing A, B, and C, or we can really dive in and go way more in depth in how we talk about stress in the job interview. And I really want to always bring it to the role when we get that question. If you get the question, tell me about a time you had to deal with stress. Okay, that's one type of question. But your overall approach and how you deal with stress, the more you can make it relevant to the role, the more it's going to create a connection with the interviewer because they've likely been through something like that in the job and they can connect to you. This is why I do not like answers that are generic to hypothetical questions because there's no connectivity. Again, we've talked a lot about this. That's the science and psychology behind answering those questions. So if you haven't had a chance to check out yesterday's video, I'm always going to spend the live sessions just spending a minute kind of highlighting why I think it'll be beneficial. Go ahead and check that out. Okay, if this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, new original long form content every Monday. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, one-on-one strategy sessions. That's mostly resume and LinkedIn. I have a killer interview mastery course. I updated all the modules with AI back in October of last year. So we're definitely getting more excitement about the course again, which is making me very excited. And of course, our AI tool, big improvements coming. I've put more money into the dev over the last 6 months, so we're doubling down. And we really believe this tool is best in market. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, we're still doing a 7-day free trial. We are going to probably explore doing more of a freemium model for our AI tool moving forward, where you'll be able to answer maybe a couple of questions a week, but just maybe get a little bit more engagement there. We are going to play around with that. And we do have a big announcement coming up. I'm really kind of hesitant to announce it yet, but we have a big new feature coming to the platform that we're hoping to launch by the end of March. And as I feel more comfortable with the start date, I'll let you guys know a little bit more about it. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. And let's kind of dive in. And then in our downtime, we'll talk a lot about what it's like to look for a job, especially in 2025. And if you are a job seeker who is out of work, some of the challenges there. And obviously, even if you are employed, it's going to be a challenging market. So what are you seeing? What are you feeling? Let's talk a little bit about it. We're seeing it become extremely challenging this year. Let's dive in. Hey, Liz, thanks for being here as always. No opportunities yet in the Middle East, and Ahmed, that sounds, yeah, we're seeing overseas opportunities also being extremely slow, especially in tech. Colorado, good to have you here. Hey, Patrick, nice to have you here. We're all able to hear you well. Okay, that's always nice to hear. Hey everyone from DC. It's a shit show here. Okay. The job market is brutal. Previously, I landed interviews through networking on LinkedIn. However, now people are not even responding. Okay. Yeah, this is the DC market. Wow. I mean, for anybody who's watching and listening in the US, the federal employee layoffs and just the overall layoffs, like so much has happened so quickly in the DC market, from the job market tumbling overnight with all the layoffs. Um, it's a really, really crazy market, but it just in general, less. You're going to see less from applying. Obviously, I think applying's the worst, but got to apply occasionally, right? But applying's the worst. Less through networking. There are less jobs. I saw a crazy stat on Business Insider. Now, take it with a grain of salt, but Business Insider posted an article that said it's twice as easy for a high school graduate to get a job now as it is for someone with a PhD. No, obviously there's less roles for people with PhDs, right? And the compensation for somebody who has a PhD is much higher, but that is a definite shift in the market where an advanced degree is, it's harder to find a job than without a degree. So it's just, let's throw in some of these interesting tidbits, what you're seeing as we go through this conversation today, because it's getting crazy out there. All right, Patrick, since I will be starting a new role, any advice on how to put together an impressive self intro? Also, any advice on how to build a network within a new company? I do want to transfer to other teams and functions in the future, so I want to start building my reputation right after I start. Thank you. Okay, Patrick. I think this is a really important one. It's one of the most interesting parts of this journey that I've been on is I didn't realize how much was missing from like the onboarding experience. I always thought job search, okay, let's do resume, LinkedIn, obviously the interview stuff, the negotiation stuff, but onboarding has been something that people have been asking me questions about for 6+ years. And so it's not so much about creating an impressive self intro or narrative. Of course, everybody should be able to articulate very specifically their past and do it in 30 seconds or definitely under a minute. What I want you to focus a little bit more on, Patrick, is there's certain things that you can do in the onboarding process that to me are absolute game changers. One, be the smiliest, friendliest, nicest person when you come in. Nobody likes working with negative, crabby people. Okay. So, and we all have crabby bad days, right? And I get it, but come in with a super energetic, positive attitude. And obviously, we're going to mirror our audience. If they're a little lower, we're going to keep it a little lower. If they're up, we're going to bring it up to their level. Second is active listening. You want to be known as the person who actively listens and asks great questions and actually takes in that information. Active listening, being comfortable in the space is really critical and extremely difficult for most people. The ability to be the last person to speak, to sit in silence, it's a skill, and it's a skill that other people will enjoy about you. Yes, get to know other people. Ask them questions about themselves. Ask them questions about what they love. You get people talking about what they love, not only are they going to light up, but they're going to like you more. So again, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's like the core basic book that everybody should read. It's the same with Growing Wealth. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's the same thing. These are foundational books that were written forever ago, but the concepts still apply today. So I would definitely read that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Work harder than everybody else. I know people don't like that comment, and we're not there to like outwork everybody else. But if you can go in, be the friendliest and kindest person, be the best active listener who asks good questions, and just outwork everybody in the first 3 to 6 months, you're going to build that great reputation. And then internal transfers, you just got to push that aside, right? You build good relationships through naturally doing it. Virtual lunches, in-person lunches really extend out your network to other teams. But I just really don't even want you thinking about internal transfers until you're at least a year in. And a big note on internal transfers. Do not internally transfer at any company anywhere until you've been promoted. Otherwise, you're setting back the clock. It's just a reality. They won't say that that's the truth, but that's the truth. Now, of course, there's going to be use cases or edge cases where we just got to get away from a bad manager. We got to get away from a bad situation. I get it. But you should wait to internally transfer until you've been promoted. Even if you're switching ladders, it's just a better move. Whew, I hope that helps. Quick update. I'm still networking, organizing interviews, and polishing my own apps. Market is super tight, even for contract work. Yeah, and Liz, I always like to tell people, like, I think I mentioned this, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this last week, like, as an entrepreneur, we see it way earlier, right? It's just like you see the number of clients who are booking sessions with you start to go down, and it's like, well, they're going down because people are getting less interviews because there's less jobs, and it's all directly correlated. And I still am a fan of contract work if we can get that good hourly rate. Obviously, I want people to get benefits and all those good things, but I think we got to be more open, more flexible, more willing to do contract work. And I even tell people, like, if you get the right contract opportunity or full-time opportunity and it's not in your local area, does the math make sense to fly up and fly back on a given week? Can you do that with your family commitments? We got to start getting way more creative with the way we look at work. Okay, question. A few weeks ago, you offered viewers a free month on your platform. I've been saving up for that best opportunity. Now it's go time. Is the offer still valid? Liz, I would go back to our LinkedIn DMs, and that offer is still valid. That coupon is still available for you because you got into that promo. And I'll be like really transparent with you. So for anybody who doesn't know, I ran a quick, and I'll do this occasionally on LinkedIn. I ran a quick, hey, like, I'm going to give my AI tool away for free. And basically what happened is it was a very short window of time. 14 people opted in, and I sent the follow-up note at the same time I said I would follow up, 9 a.m. I think I did it on a Friday, 9 a.m. I followed up, 14 people opted in. Liz, you're the only person who followed up. Even 2 of those people, I sent connection requests to anybody who hadn't connected with me, and all those people had to do was DM me, free promo, free month, whatever I put in there. I don't remember, and you're the only person who followed up. It's hard to give things away for free, and that's kind of a sad state of the economy when you can get a great tool and not even use it for free. So, Liz, that offer's still there. Go into your LinkedIn messages, and you can hit that trigger whenever you're ready. Hey, Kathleen, New Jersey. Okay. A few opportunities out there, but so many people out of work. They want perfect matches. Oh, thank you for this comment. Yes, I think that this is something else that we need to be talking about that really wasn't on my mental radar today. So thank you so much for bringing it up. Companies are getting pickier. It's shifted. It's really shifted to a company first, not employee first. So they can be super picky with who they go after because there's so much good talent. I was talking to my friend yesterday, and she got laid off with like 8,500 other people from Disney in the fall. And it's like, Disney hires amazing people. And that's just one of obviously a million other great companies where people had to work really hard to get into those companies. And so now the limited job opportunities, absolutely, Kathleen, they are being much more picky. They're taking their time. If they don't find the right fit, sometimes they're deprioritizing the role and then re-releasing the role. It's getting a little gnarly. Yeah. I added services to my LinkedIn profile, option to contract me for pricing. Any guidance or suggestions on using this feature on LinkedIn? Yeah, so I had that feature and then I took it down. It's just, I would say, like making sure that you have a very solid, well-defined offering that when people send you project requests, that you can just send them that link and say, here's what I do. Because I get a ton of project requests on LinkedIn still, even without having that up, I get them. And they're basic. It's like, I'm looking for X role and I want interview prep. And it's like, well, I'm just going to send you the link to get the interview prep on my website. My offering is going to always be catered to your needs, right? And so again, you're just going to get some stuff that you're going to have to filter through. I think of all the project requests that I've gotten on LinkedIn for consulting work, which has been hundreds, not thousands, but definitely in the hundreds. I think less than a handful have actually ended up booking with me. So it's not a high conversion rate, but I definitely recommend that you do it. Just again, have a link to a very clear offering that you provide. And that could even be like a link to a Google Doc or something simplistic like that. But just make sure your offering is very specific and doesn't leave any ambiguity or questions. Latest app is more fun portfolio than profit. It's called 25 Scoops. Okay, everybody, take this down. Premium gelato and helps you find the best authentic gelato in New York, London, Paris, available on iOS, Android, and review. Okay, everybody. Liz has been a huge advocate of what I do. So check out. Oh, sorry. I even mispronounced that. I think I need glasses. Two scoops. Oh, two scoops. That makes sense. What was I saying before? Two scoops. Because who wants one scoop? Two scoops is better. All right. I love that. Check that out. Liz, don't be shy to continue to push that. I know it's maybe not the right platform for it, but let's have some fun. I mean, everybody, well, as long as your whatever goes on with your digestive system, but most people like gelato if you can take it in. Thanks. Hey, Jeff, hope you're well. Thank you. I had a G&L and RK for an account strategist role. My recruiter said if both come out positive, I'll be moved to the next stage, which is GCA. Okay. Now my GCA interview has been scheduled for the 12th of next month. Any tips on how to crush it, please? The biggest thing to remember with the GCA interview is solve like you're in the role. Why do I say that? Well, first of all, for all hypothetical answers, and GCA interviews tend to lean hypothetical, we always want to answer like we're in the role. But for that random question, that question like open a pastry shop, well, you're not going to just open a pastry shop as a normal person, right? You're going to open it as an account strategist, which would mean you'd be running ads or figuring out a good ad strategy before you launch to get the excitement, to get people ramped up about it. So if you use that as your default mode, that is the best piece of advice. And there's a little bit of a misconception that GCA is only hypothetical or it's very random. It's interviewer dependent. The most common of what I see is one random hypothetical question, one role related hypothetical question, and then one pretty open behavioral question, meaning a behavioral question where you'll likely have multiple examples, like tell me about a time you enhanced an already complex project. That was the one that I got in my GCA interview. And they still ask questions like that to this day. Good luck. Let me know if you have more questions. Hi, Jeff. I've recently had the blessing of interviewing with AWS, Google, and now Meta coming up all within the last 2 weeks. I'm in the data center space. How much weight do HM's interviews carry at Google? Well, here's the deal, right? You can crush all the interviews, but if it is for that specific hiring manager, let's just talk logical, right? The hiring manager doesn't like you, you're not going to get the job. And it just goes to show you that it's a very, very important interview. They're going to look at the collective feedback from the team and everybody else. And maybe if they didn't get a good feel from you, maybe they'll push you onto another team. They'll give you another shot with another interview, but it matters. What really matters in that interview is how do you end that interview? And so you end that interview by asking them questions about them. And I have a specific psychology that I like to use at the end of interviews, especially with hiring managers. What do you love about your role? What do you love about the team? What do you love about the organization? What is the coolest thing you're working on right now, to the extent that you can share with me? Love, 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 cool. They'll light up. And you get them talking about themselves, which will get them to like you more. And it's a great test. If they give you negative answers, do you really want to work for a hiring manager that's giving you negative answers about the company, about the team in the job interview? Probably not. Okay. But end all hiring manager interviews by asking them questions about themselves. Not everybody likes that commentary or feedback, but they're ignoring the science if they don't like it. Thank you so much for providing that fantastic advice on onboarding. My role is remote, but still going to the Chicago office. Most of my team is in the Bay. Okay, so like virtual lunches, right? So like you meet Sue. Sue's on a collaborative team. You're doing a little bit of work with Sue, but Sue's role is like super cool and interesting. You're gonna say, Sue, would you mind having a virtual lunch with me? I'd love to just ask you some questions about your team, about the work you're doing. Virtual lunches are really, really important in today's landscape where we're not always going to be in the same room, in the same place as people. Hey, Jeff, I was a technical recruiter until I was laid off last year. I'm currently working on more of an admin position in HR. What's the future of recruiters in tech? Should I get back to it? Oof. I have a very specific opinion on this, so that's just kind of like, I don't know, like I should be like able to put a little red flag up there or something. But I think 3 years, maybe 3 years more for recruiters. I don't think it's past that. Some people could argue for 5 years, and people will definitely argue against me and say recruiters will always be around. Absolutely no way. There's no way. There's about 10% of recruiters in my mind that do a good job, and then 90% do a pretty poor job. And the ones that do a poor job, that 90%, well, what they can fix with automation and AI is so simple. Timely responses, more information about the process and what's going on. There's just so many opportunities to automate that role in so many facets that I just don't see it existing that much longer. So I think maybe something else based in HR that's a little bit more people and communication focused could be a better move, because the HR component, like the HRBP role, for example, always going to need another human to communicate with you. We're going to still need that energetic exchange. So something in HR would be good, but I'm not positive about the future state of recruiters. And I think about all the Google recruiters and Meta recruiters and Amazon recruiters who can really push that big brand to get interviews, and they're not getting jobs either in recruiting. So it's tough. Why do you think the jobs have dried down? Is it the AI effect, and do you predict a bounce back anytime soon? No. I mean, I don't. Again, and it's not like a gloom and doom. It's just companies are so fixated on for profit, and nothing makes you more profit than increasing those profit margins. And one easy way to do that is to have less staff. Staff is incredibly expensive. It's not just the salaries and all those things, it's the benefits, it's having the space for these workers to go, it's any of the other perks or benefits. It's extremely expensive to have employees. If I can just remove an employee through automation, I'm going to do it. And automation's going to get better, not worse. So I think that the current and future state of jobs is going to be less and less and less over time. And it's why I know most people aren't here to hear this, but if you do have a unique skill set, do have something to offer the job market, consider the solopreneur, entrepreneur path. It's not an easy path. It'll kick your butt many, many days, but it's the best way to protect yourself against these corporate shifts that we see happening all the time. Let me see. Yeah, I think I answered that question. Let me know if you have more questions. Will that make a difference on the prior advice? I'm planning to see the team before I start, since I'll be visiting my friend in the Bay next month. No, same advice. Again, if when you're in the Bay or when you're in the local office, whatever it might be, it's um, virtual lunches or in-person lunches. Remember, we're human beings. It's we have an energetic exchange. We have a field of energy around us. This is not woo-woo stuff. This is actually science, right? So the energetic exchange is where humans really connect with each other. If we could see it, it would be an amazing thing. I think there are ways that we can actually see our energy fields or whatever, but like we're made up of energy, right? So not being able to do things in person is removing that opportunity for an energetic exchange. So I always prefer that, but a lot of times you're just going to have to do it virtually. So no difference in the advice. Same thing, whether it's a virtual lunch or a real lunch, you're going to take all the same tactics. Awesome, Liz. You are welcome. Also, regarding meeting with people at my new company, how aggressive should I go with it? Should I ask my manager and get a list of people she wants me to meet? What if she's not very helpful on that? Patrick, absolutely not. That is too aggressive. I think, obviously we've been through this a lot together, and these questions that you're asking are so important for everybody because onboarding's really important. But I think that maybe there's a little bit of overthinking here, right? Like it's just you're going to need to warm into it a little bit. If it's too aggressive from the beginning, you want to talk to everybody, have a virtual lunch with everybody, ask questions of everybody, you're going to overwhelm them. So just a nice ease, but be very friendly and kind, be a great active listener. But if it's very aggressive on the front end, no. And again, like you should not be asking your manager for a list of people. You should be coming up with that based on your individual interactions. You can always back it up and ask, but yeah, I just want you to slow down a little bit. I know you're super excited and you should be, but at the same time, if you're too aggressive, it can create a bad brand right off the bat. Okay, Kathleen. All right, you definitely seen a preference for 100 matches, need 10 out of 10 on all the JD requirements and need to be matched perfectly. Yeah, and why is that such a bad practice, right? I would never. Now, I hire a lot of contractors, so they're fulfilling a specific need that I have. But if I was hiring a full-time employee, I wouldn't want them to have all the skills. I'd want them to have about 70% of the skills and then be able to teach and coach them on the other skills. Because if somebody knows everything, they're going to get bored really quickly. I'd rather hire somebody who had those real core skills I needed, but also had an opportunity for growth. Just my 2 cents. Hey, Jeff. I just relocated to the Bay Area. My background is in finance, and I've been searching so far on LinkedIn and had a few referrals from friends. Still haven't landed any interviews. Any suggestions on where else I should focus on applying? Okay, so let's push the applications aside. I mean, I don't want you to apply. I want you to really work that referral network as much as you can. The one sneaky trick that I love, well, there's two things, and if you've been here before, you've probably heard these a million times from me. I love the giving first model. When you network, instead of asking, give an article, give a video, something relevant to them, something that's recent. When you do a Google search, hit that tools bar and pick something that was posted in the last week, the last month as the farthest out, especially as the world's changing so quickly. Secondarily, I love LinkedIn recommendations, but not for the reasons that people think. Like, let's give LinkedIn recommendations to former colleagues that are now currently working at a company that we'd like to work at. And then we say, Jane was a great coworker and Jane was great for A, B, and C reasons. And it's just to get back onto Jane's radar. And if you're obviously actively looking for work, just make sure your LinkedIn profile is optimized. Anybody who tells you the open for work banner isn't good they're out of their minds. It's such a small percentage of people who are barking loud on the don't use the open to work, and a lot of it's just clickbait. Honestly, anybody who's in the hiring space is going to tell you that open to work banner is good. I did a YouTube video based on what you should do on your LinkedIn profile if you're open to work. It's really helpful. I recommend watching it. And anybody who goes to my YouTube channel, if you just go down a little bit, there's a little search icon. They really kind of bury it. And you can just put LinkedIn or LinkedIn open to work and you can find that video. I hope that helps. Okay, we're at the 30s. I am going to take 30 seconds to prompt to my services. If this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one-on-one interview coaching, negotiation coaching, and strategy. That's mostly resume and LinkedIn. Still have that killer interview mastery course. We're actually ramping up and getting more people to purchase it since I updated it with AI back in October. All the modules now have AI included in them. Our practice interview tool, you have to practice your interview skills. Our interview tool is free. Try it for a week for free. See if you like it. There's no commitment. And then if you like it, obviously purchase it. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific every Tuesday and new original content, long form every Monday. I'm trying to do more shorts. I haven't been really following through with that, so I'll keep trying. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you never subscribed, consider subscribing. Let's dive right back in. Totally agree with the internal transfer. Not thinking of an internal transfer for now, but definitely want to build a great network first, which can be helpful, whatever, for a path I choose eventually. Yeah, maybe you don't want to internally transfer there. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe you find another job, right? Like, it's just, I always like to just kind of like mentally say, like, push it to the side. Your networking strategy should just be networking internally. If it leads to an open position, great. Hey, Jeff, I still haven't heard back from my recruiter regarding the update on my RRK2 second interview for data analyst. It's been almost 2 weeks now. What should I do? I mean, I would definitely follow up again. If you hit 3 weeks, use this, but 2 weeks is crazy. Like, this is why we need to go back to that previous question of, will recruiters still be around? They're not going to still be around because no automated system would ever take 2 weeks to respond. It would respond to every incoming email immediately. It would have a trigger where emails would go out to update candidates. It's crazy. I don't get it. It takes such a low level of organization to get back to candidates. So if you hit the 3 week mark, use that. I would try emailing again for where we're at right now. And sorry you're having this experience. If we continue to cut red tape in government and states, and there are fewer requirements placed upon companies, do you think they'll be able to grow headcount again? So it's a great question, Liz. I actually think that the future state is, I think that most of these companies have probably like maxed out corporate headcount. And that if we were to take a snapshot of the headcount in, pre-layoff or since 2020, are any of these companies really going to grow with the number of employees? No. I mean, if it's Amazon and there's more delivery drivers, which they'll always need, like, of course, that could extend out, but that will basically be autonomous vehicles and then robots just coming out of the autonomous vehicles and delivering your packages to your door anyway pretty soon. So, but I think overall staff at these companies and headcount, it's going to be thinner. And that's what we've seen basically over the last 2 or 3 years. Definitely 2 years, headcount's been lower pretty much everywhere. Okay, so Jeff, do you suppose it's better in the current scenario to stick where we already are than jump ship? Well, jump ship if you have another opportunity that you like. You like the company, you at least have some good feeling about the manager, the compensation is at the level you want it to be at. So there is something about like, last in, first out, for short, LIFO. And so that can be a concern though, right? They may prioritize people who have been with the company longer, but we haven't really seen that lately, right? Companies are letting go very tenured employees, and some of these big tech companies actually lean more into people who have been there longer than shorter. But just know there's risks for doing nothing. There's risks for moving. There's always going to be risks, right? And so it's so much about you doing what you can to continue to build your skill set in whatever way makes it impossible to not hire you. And I have to double down and say the only thing that we can do to differentiate ourselves in today's economic conditions is build our communication skills. Yeah, should we know how to do prompt engineering and should we know how to utilize AI trends? Of course, but you will ultimately win with stronger communication skills. So, doing anything you can to work to improve communication skills, written and verbal, anything you can do to read books on communication, anything like that's going to be super, super valuable and helpful. People can see through surface conversations. You build a solid network by actually working with people and showing the quality of your work. It's not just about meeting people. Yeah, and this is a great comment. I like to share the story of what I did at Google. I had been there for a little bit. I think at this point I had definitely already been converted to a full-time employee, but what I did was I built out a candidate experience deck. I shared it with my team. I got really positive feedback from my team. And my manager kind of encouraged me at the time to socialize this with other teams. So what I did was I went to the product area recruiting leads for every product area at Google. At the time, it wasn't too diverse. I mean, it was like 7 or 8 product teams. So product area teams. So it's like product, software engineering, search, whatever it was. And I said, hey, I'd love to sit with you, learn a little bit more about you and your team. And then at the end, I would always offer and I'd say, okay, so I didn't want to waste your time. I have this candidate experience training. I'd love to teach your team on it. And then that's what we did. And then it was like I was sitting, I was listening, I was asking good questions, and then I came in with a value add. Every single one of those product area leads ended up taking me up on it. And I presented to their team, and it got really positive experience, definitely helped me get promoted. So, yeah, I definitely agree that bringing something of value, which takes a little bit of time to get into the organization and learn and grow. Okay, I just want to follow up with the last comment on onboarding. Are you suggesting I should observe who are the people to interact with actively and then ask for a virtual lunch? Um, Most of who you're going to figure out who to network with is going to come through work interactions, right? Not all of them, but a lot of them will come through those interactions. So it's also like, who do you enjoy talking with and working with, and who do you want to learn from? Sometimes they may be in a product area where you want to learn from them, but they're not like the best person. And so you want to prioritize your time accordingly. Patrick, you never need to be sorry about being too aggressive, as I got some PTSD from my experience with my current roles. My manager literally don't loop me on emails and kind of block me from everything. You don't want to end up with the same failure here. Again, no need to apologize. I just obviously like you're really excited about the new opportunity. And so that's great. It's just everything is all about kind of finding that nice balance of being really excited and not overwhelming people at the same time. And you'll be good with that. I mean, I feel like I know you well enough to say, like, you're going to be fine. Um, but there seems to be a lot of pre-preparation before this move, and it's like this is the time you should just be relaxing and not being so worried about getting everything perfect. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be fumbles, there's going to be learning opportunities, and that's the only way we grow is we're going to learn. And so you're going to find that in your networking efforts it's not exactly perfect. And so I feel as though, yeah, I just want you to be more relaxed and happy about making the transition and a little less stressed about making it so perfect when you join. There are things you can do, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, happened the same with my recruiter hasn't responded back after a HM interview 5 weeks and counting now. Okay, so you are definitely at the stage. You're going to hear back in 24 hours or less. Just Google at candidate support, and basically all you say when you respond to that email is you basically say, hey, it's been 5 weeks since my hiring manager interview and I haven't heard back. It was recommended that I use this email address to find out what's going on, and send that right now. 5 weeks is just like, there's just no excuse for it. And by the way, like, we don't talk enough about this, but look, I would let recruiters have it in the feedback surveys. Like, just crush them. Look, it is not hard to follow up with somebody. It's so easy, but they're not doing it. So make them feel the pain of not doing their job. Always recommend that. You are welcome. Keep us posted, obviously. This week, I have my Googliness and Leadership interview with GCP with Google. Any hints or quick suggestions? I got 3. So, number 1, these interviews lately have leaned much more. Sorry, it looks like my mic got hit my mic. I think we're good now. Let me know if you can't hear me. So lean heavily into decision making. This is what they're focused on. So how have you made decisions in the past? How would you make decisions in X, Y, or Z type of scenario? How do you make decisions through collaboration? How do you make decisions through inclusivity? Decisions that you've made in the past that you would change? If you get that question, tell me about a decision you made in the past year or 2 that you change. Tell them exactly what the bad decision was immediately, and then talk about the actions you took to overcome that. That's what I have seen as a major trend lately in the G&L interviews. What's the typical timeline from on-site to feedback? The process leading to on-site was relatively quick. Recruiter called to on-site in a week. No team matching on this role, from my understanding. I wish I had a good timeline for you, but as you've probably seen from some recent comments, that timeline is really dependent upon your recruiter's ability to do their job. And so it also can be a host of other things where you came in and your timing in the process, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it should. The request internally is interview feedback completed in 48 hours. Usually it takes about a week to get full feedback. So you should have some idea of where things are heading in a week, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. Yeah, Google. You are welcome. Thank you so much for the suggestion on relaxation. My hiring manager asked me to do the role, asked me to do the same thing, and asked me to come up with a vacation plan before I start. Guess that's right. Yeah, vacation plan before you start. That's weird. And by the way, you are not at all required to know when your vacation is going to be before you start at a company. That's kind of a crazy ask, but maybe they're just trying to get your mindset right into like relaxing. But you don't have to have all that mapped out. And if you go and you say, hey, like, I really don't know what my year looks like, so I haven't planned any vacation as of right now, but obviously I'll give you a big heads up. Something like that would be fine. You are welcome. The onboarding questions are really valuable for everybody, right? So that's what I enjoy about this platform. I never get frustrated or upset seeing the same questions over and over, because it's not only the person asking the question, but there's always somebody in the audience who's going to be curious or aligned on that question as well. You're welcome. As a FANG EPM for 15 years, finding a good seasoned 10 plus years mentor and being a sponge with great follow through are 2 career advancement tools. Okay, let's dive into this a little bit. Yeah, so finding somebody who's a great mentor is really important. Like, we always want to find a great mentor, somebody who we think can help and guide us and You know, I'm just looking back at my career, and I do and have had some good mentors. My best mentors were not at Google, actually. They were at other companies where I found some people who really helped lead and guide me down the path that I ended up on. But I had a couple of really good champions at Google who really supported me and did provide some guidance. Um, but it is surprisingly, my biggest mentors did not come from Google personally. But we want to learn and grow from people who have been where we want to go. And we constantly want to get in the room, not with people who are here, but are here. And if that's our North Star, we want to continue to work to get to that place. Uh, so think about who you're putting yourself in the room with, not just professionally, but personally. And are those people elevating you, or are they bringing you down? I know that that's kind of a more life coaching piece, but if we do that in the corporate space and we're always trying to we're at the manager level and we want to be at the director or VP level, how often are you spending time with those people, and who's taking the time to really grow you and take excitement in what you're doing and help push the needle for you? Thanks so much. Great comment. My hiring manager asked me to take a vacation and relax before I start off fresh. Okay. She asked me not to think too much for preparing about the role. Okay, good. That was a little concerning. I was like, I don't think you should have to have a pre-planned vacation set up, but she's feeling what I'm feeling, which is it's excitement, but it's also excitement with like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Well, you're not there yet. So don't worry about it. You can worry about it once you're there. And obviously, we want to get in the right mental mindset before we start. And there is so much you can do. You can read up on best onboarding practices. There's a great book, How to Manage Your Manager. So many best practices we can be thinking about before we join a company. But yeah, the last thing I want you to do is stress out your manager too before you start with a constant barrage of questions of all the things you can do. I think now's the time to just kind of settle in, be really excited about the fact that you have this new position, and be ready to go in there with authority. Okay. We are kind of early to be out of questions, 47 and a half minutes in. So I'm going to answer any additional questions that come in, but let's talk a little bit more about the job market. You know, that's the purpose of today's live session, and our downtime is to talk about it. And so it's tough, and it's going to get tougher. I think that we all need to recognize in a positive way that automation is here to stay, and love it or hate it, it's here. And the second thing I will just want to state to people is you need to mentally prepare for your position to go away. Can my job be automated? And I don't believe that there's a single job out there that probably can't be automated in the next 3 to 5 years. And we're even talking physical labor. I mean, has anybody seen here, and you can confirm or deny this? I mean, I saw a video just yesterday of a robot plucking crops in a field and doing it efficiently. And that could happen. Put some lights on or whatever it needs, and it can do that work 24 hours a day. I mean, so it's not just the jobs, the corporate jobs, it's going to be physical and manual labor jobs too. So we just have to be ready for it. And if we're not willing to admit that the future state of jobs is going to be extremely automated, we're not preparing ourselves for the future landscape in the career space. And it's just so important that we're just taking a moment to reflect, because I have this conversation all the time with people in other fields. I just ask them that simple question: do you think your job could be automated? And a lot of people say no. And I think we just need to think creatively. If it could be, what would that look like? And it's a great question to ask yourself. You're welcome. Any tips for someone starting to conduct technical interviews at Google? To me, 40% of candidates seem qualified to do the job. So how can I best differentiate between so how can I better differentiate between good versus a great candidate? There's only one thing If we're going to just focus in on one thing that will make you better than almost all other candidates and go from decent, okay, maybe good to great, fantastic, exceptional, it's how. And so most candidates, behavioral and hypothetical, tell me what they did or what they would do. It's not good enough. I need to know what you did supported by how you did it. I need to know what you would do supported by how you would do it. That level of depth is important. So if you tell me you tested, well, I want to know what you tested, how long you tested, what were the types of tests you ran. And then again, if we flip to the hypothetical side, if you are going through that testing phase, who are you collaborating with? How are you collaborating with them? How are you doing the checks and balances to make sure that the testing is going to move to a full-on execution? How is everything? Let's talk about it for a second. Let's go down the science and psychology path of how. How makes us memorable. When we're more memorable, we're more likable. And when we're more likable, we're more hireable. And I talk about that constant path all the time. And that's the science. If they can remember us, they're going to like us more. And then when they're putting in that feedback, they're going to think we're a better hire. Sounds basic, but it's actually quite challenging. I hope that helps. Also, I want to share some experience with job hunting. I usually prioritize apply roles posted within 24 hours every single day with less applications. I got a handful of interviews because of that, as well as my current role from a role at a big tech company from a start company. Yeah, so I would just say if you are going to apply, it's really important. I would always just again, I don't like applying because I think only about probably 2-3% of people get jobs through applications. Where are the other jobs coming from? 40 to 50% of people who find jobs are sourced directly. They're tough to find jobs, and the recruiters or sourcers are going out and finding them. And 20% are referrals, 20% are internal transfers, another 7% are through networking efforts. It's 3%. Start to look at that statistically, you're going to say, wow, applying is probably not as great of a move. People who do get jobs through applications, but it's just not as common. If you're going to apply, go directly to the company website and apply there. And like Patrick said, apply within 24 hours of the job being posted, ideally. Given that we will be replaced or supplemented by AI robots, how to best manage the future? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's such a, what is the world going to look like in 10 years? I mean, I'd just be shocked if the world doesn't look like a hybrid of humans and robots. What was that movie with Will Smith, AI Robot or whatever? It's going to look like that. We are going to be walking down the streets with walking around robots. I really believe that. I think a lot of the jobs will be automated. I think most of the jobs will be communication based. How people make money, I have no clue. I can't really picture that. Maybe we get so efficient that the government can subsidize and in countries and help people get money. But in 10 years, the world is going to just be absolutely crazy. You'll be, for probably the middle to upper middle class, you'll be as likely to have a car as have a robot in your house. It's going to be, I don't know. And it's just going to be crazy. We can imagine everything, but it's here now. It's happening, and there's no stopping it. So we got to figure out how to embrace it and work with it instead of trying to fight against it. Then how do you think someone should prepare for the scenario where all jobs may be automated? Is entrepreneurship the only way to go? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and remember, I'm saying that at a huge detriment to my business, right? Because I coach people on how to interview and get jobs at real companies. But we're going towards a smaller and smaller and smaller economy, more entrepreneurs, more solopreneurs, because okay, so let's talk about my business. So I've been running my business for over 6 years. In the beginning, I had a couple lawyers. I don't have those lawyers anymore. I just use ChatGPT for that. I had more permanent email marketing person. I have an email marketing person who helps with like my active campaigns, but I had more of a permanent email marketing person. Don't need them anymore. Automated that out. I had a bookkeeper. Don't need a bookkeeper anymore. I'm very easy to automate. Now, obviously, I have QuickBooks and all that stuff, but you just start to think about all these people that I used to pay for things that I don't need to pay them for anymore. So I think entrepreneurship is the way to go. And by the way, the biggest differentiator that will probably be here for at least a while is content. You're going to get business through content. My sales and marketing strategy is content. I don't run ads. I don't do anything else. I just do content. And it works. Do I have the most highly produced content? Nobody would say I do. But if you can consistently produce good content and like really narrow down and not make it generic, focused in on your unique lens, I think it's a good way to go. So yeah, I do see entrepreneurship as the future state of jobs. Red tape has been a huge detriment over the years when you put multiple VPs and directors in the approval chain, even when they have nothing to do with the position you interview for, you're clogging the system. Yeah. I think, I've been pretty candid. That was one of my toughest and biggest challenges at Google. It was just like, I didn't want to be a recruiter anymore. Like, that's just what it is. I was old. As an IC recruiter at Google, I was one of the oldest individual contributor recruiters. I just had kind of gotten past my time there as a recruiter, and I didn't want to do it anymore. But it was just it was so hard to just get one person hired. And then it was like the whole management team didn't understand why quotas were so hard to hit. It's like when it takes 3 or 4 months to hire one person, well, you're losing a lot of people because the editors can come in and hire a lot more quickly. And it just wore me down. And that's what I think what a lot of these big companies, the red tape just wears people down. What's the best way to show growth, evoke excitement and interest via your resume, portfolio, website projects, volunteer experience, etc.? This is a big question. The best way to show growth this is a lot of different questions, I feel like, but speak with passion, speak with context. Context is important. So don't tell me you had good food and watched a great sports game last night. Tell me you had great pepperoni pizza and you watched the Boston Celtics. Again, I use those two because I love pizza and I love the Celtics, and I even have my Celtics shirt on, which you probably can't see because the thing here, but just context can be really, really valuable for people. So a little bit of context, be specific, be brief, and just when you speak about passion, people can see it. The crinkles in your eyes get very natural, like have it be authentic. I really don't know if that answered the question. So if you have follow-ups, let me know. Hey, Jeff, please, how does recommending work at Google? I was referred by a Googler who wrote a recommendation on my application. It helps. And that's why you've gotten to the place you've gotten to in the process. It helps. It usually helps open a door. Is it going to help you get the job at the end of the day? No, not really. But it opened the door for you, so that's all that matters. Now you just want to concentrate on your GCA interview and make sure you crush that. That's your only focus. Self-certification through SQL and other skills. How long should I be doing these certifications? Not that long, right? Again, like, can we automate this? Can we just have Gemini or GPT or Llama or Claude do it for us? Probably soon. So I don't know. I like certifications because I have a learning mindset. I love learning, and every day I spend every single day of my life learning. And so I love certifications, licenses, anything that you can do to grow your knowledge base. And maybe it just makes you smarter on the job. So I don't want to say no to anything, but I do think we're going to be able to automate some of those things pretty soon. Companies nowadays have unrealistic expectations from people who are just starting their career due to the growing competition in the market. What do you think? What do you think could be the solution to this? I don't. I don't think that there's a solution towards the growing competition, especially for the younger generation. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned that education is letting people down, and that even bachelor's degrees are just not really needed anymore. It's just my 2 cents. I know people argue against that all the time, and I think we'll have higher education for a while, but I'd rather just dive in, go to high school, start learning the hands-on skills, start diving all into AI, figuring out what I have passion and more importantly purpose for, and just kind of diving through that, because I think like going and being a freshman next year for software engineering, it's like in 4 years, are you really going to get hired for a software engineer role, entry level? Probably not. I appreciate the honesty, Jeff. Absolutely. I hope, if anything, I'm pretty honest and transparent in these. And like for all of us content creators, we want to bring and be our authentic selves. And sometimes that can be and mean we're like a little critical of things, but obviously I try to keep it as positive as we can. Hey, Jeff. So I don't know hi, Jeff, IIRC. So I'm going to think that the last was like recent comment. Always in written and verbal communication, if it's not like the most common abbreviation, I always recommend writing it out. I know we're in a live session and that's not expected. It's casual, but some people struggle with abbreviations, myself included. And so just always fun to write those things out, just to share. Back like roles like project manager would probably take more time to automate. I see Asiatic AI coming up. Do you think this can take over these types of roles? The thing about like project and program managers is there's still people involved, right? And so like that's why I still see those roles as relatively safe. It's like, yeah, the project tool can go through everything, but it can't go yell at Bob to get his stuff together and get the job done, right? Like the person needs to go deal with Bob, right? And like really poke and get to that emotional level and communication level. And that's why I still think those jobs are safe in the short term. Long term, I can't say any role, but in the short term, I still feel like those roles are safe. Great question. Jeff, 2 quick things. I received an email from you retesting your tool while you're speaking. Oh, amazing organization is my feedback there. Okay, great. I'm glad you got that email. Starting to get better with my emails. Hopefully I got a great partner who's trying to help me get better in that space, because it's a real poor area. And actually, let's just talk about that for a second. If you're in the entrepreneur space or entrepreneur path, ads and SEO are dying a little bit. Why? You do a Google search and Gemini pops up with your result right away. So the best way to market to people is email, and they've opted in to give you their email. Now, a lot of people will unsubscribe, and I've probably had, 30,000 subscribers over my time running my business, and I've lost half of those people to unsubscribes over time, but it's a really valuable tool to keep working on. And it's just, I'm saying this because I need to remind myself of this. And then re-entrepreneurship, you're in a 5-day hackathon where the intro introduced past hackathon winners and their amazing earnings from AI apps. Post-hackathon, high school student making 1.7 million per month, others selling ideas and prototypes. Yeah, and so what I'm thinking is like, I think about the cost of a 4-year degree, and I just say, what if you had this idea? And if the cost of a 4-year degree, let's call it $200,000 USD, what could you do with $200,000 in an idea? If you can get that money, I think it's a better investment for where we're at today. Let's just go to this last piece, then I'll go back. In sum, I'm working on multiple income streams, combo of work for hire, agency work, and product revenue, mobile desktop AI apps. Also need to figure out a coupon code for free 2 scoops for you. Okay, cool. Yeah, and the coupon codes and the promo codes, anybody running a business, like get excitement through pre-selling your offering, giving discounts, giving coupons, right? Like You shouldn't always discount your services. Sometimes in these lives, I'll discount my services. Today, I didn't do it, but occasionally throwing out those promos to people is always good. Hey, Greg, I had an RRK1 interview with GCP a few weeks ago, and the interviewer seemed irritated when I asked clarifying questions. Should the clarifying questions be mostly asked during the GCA? That interviewer sucks because Google literally teaches interviewers in their interview preparation, in their interview guides, to ask clarifying questions. So it's so annoying when they don't like it because that's how they were trained. So when they look annoyed, remember, we are always adapting to body language. So interviewer, Bob's always my negative person. Sue's my favorite person. Jane's my in-between. So we'll go with Bob. So Bob starts to scrunch up his face. Turn your clarifying questions into thought process. Instead of saying, are we working with internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, or both? You'd say, okay, Bob, I'm going to think through a few things. Like Bob instantly doesn't like your first clarifying question. All right, Bob, let me share some other things I'm thinking through. I'm wondering if they've ever worked with Google Ads in the past, or if this is their first time experiencing them. I'm thinking, are they focused more on performance, optimization, or both? So you just change the clarification, the up at the end of a questioning. Is it internal or external stakeholders? We go up a little bit to just changing it to thought process. We have to adapt and adjust to our audience always, right? Or all my advice is terrible, but it's just so awful when they hate clarifying questions, which sometimes they do. It's like you're not doing your job. You're trained to hear out clarifying questions, and now you're getting annoyed at it. And this is why, let's talk about it. Future state of jobs, no more human interviewers. And I really strongly believe people are going to get I don't know how people are going to like this, so throw it back at me. I'd much, much rather interview with AI today than interview with a human. Why? Humans are tired. They're cranky. They're distracted. They have short attention spans. They're hungover, whatever it might be. I don't want to talk to a human because they are a huge X factor that brings in incredible amounts of bias into the interview process. Is AI biased? Sure. Not nearly as biased as a human. So I think that we should be interviewing with AI. We would remove all that bias. We could have very structured, consistent interviews, and then maybe have an interview with the hiring manager or a team member or both. But we should be doing most of our interviews through AI. Just my opinion, because I hate hearing stuff like this. I guess the question I have about the resume, which you touched upon as well, is what makes good storytelling in it. Yeah, so you're not trying to story tell in a resume, right? Like well, depends on how you articulate or view storytelling, I guess. Resume, bulleted summary at the top that's specific. You throw your current resume and the job description into GPT and you say, create 7 summary bullets that are very specific about specific skills that align with my background in the role. A bulleted summary is going to highlight your story and why you're connected. In the bullets, I have 2 rules that I really like. I got to know your day-to-day and accomplishments. People say just do accomplishments, but I don't know if I don't know what you do on a daily basis. First of all, that's not going to help me understand what you're currently doing. Secondly, the day-to-day is really good to hit the ATS. So those are my 2 resume recommendations for storytelling. For accomplishments, make sure you have good numbers in there. And then another one, what makes an applicant stand out as a BI data analyst? Communication skills, collaboration, communication. I was a former data analyst in my career. And what made me good was asking great questions and trying to figure out what was the data people wanted, and then taking that data, applying it, testing it, executing, and then going back to the stakeholders and validating. So I hope that helps. You are welcome. We're here with you. Same abbreviations, grind my gears. And again, that's not it's a learning opportunity, right? There's something in my brain that even with like common abbreviations, maybe it's like the most I don't know. I wouldn't know how to articulate this. Maybe this is like a very mild form of dyslexia. It would be like very small, but just an ability for my brain to connect letters and make and turn those letters into longer words. It's just a struggle for me. It always has been. And so it's a really simple thing, but you might run into somebody like me. So it's great to just, I hope that learning helps. I love sales roles. I still think that the human interaction is something that people are going to want for a long time. So I feel like sales roles are pretty safe, in my opinion. Anything that is truly dominated by communication skills, I think is safe for now. And I like sales roles. So I think that's a good space to be thinking about. Thanks for being here. Having interviewed people from some of the best engineering schools, the quality of education is going way down. Most times they tend to regurgitate what they've been taught instead of using logic. Yeah, and do we need formal education? I mean, we don't just need to memorize facts. We don't need to memorize anything anymore. We have all the data and information. The way that the education system is built it needs to be completely flipped. And I think it can be. I think we can still have higher education, but it's just got to look very, very different. Totally agree. No. Yeah, I mean, again, I appreciate it. But I think that people maybe have a misunderstanding of what I'm trying to do, right? Um, I'm not trying to be highly produced, and I'm not trying to get more subscribers or more views. I'm just trying to produce good content, and I don't really care. I know that that sounds bad and like people are trying to stand out, but it's not my. I've done it for 6 years without an editor, without a thumbnail creator, and would I maybe get more views and a little more business? Sure, but I also want to be my authentic self, and I've always kind of defaulted and leaned towards not wanting to hire somebody to do that stuff. I guess I'm like not 100% no, but it's just, I mean, you have to imagine that I have definitely received over 1,000 requests for this. And I would say just one piece of advice, and not for this live session. I appreciate you throwing it out there. A lot of times when I get marketing from video editors, they say, content's really good, but if you use that in any of your messaging to reach out to people, I would say your content's really good. And what we could do to improve it and is great. I've received just so many messages from video editors that say your content's really good, but that but is such a negative. It's such a poke. It's such a diss that it's an instant block, move to spam. So again, just in your messaging, your content's really good and a few opportunities to make it even better are just a suggestion. Hypothetically, let's say that your current boss's wife may potentially be on the interview team for a certain role. How do you proceed if you don't want your current employer to know what you're doing? Okay, hypothetically, let's say your current boss's wife may potentially be on the interview team for a certain role. I would share that with your point of contact and just say, hey, look, like this is definitely a confidential search. My boss's wife works at your organization and potentially on the team. Can we make sure that they're not a part of the process, at least initially? I think it's worth at least bringing out right into the conversation, because like that could be scary, right? So tread lightly, do it softly. If you can do it in a phone conversation or a video conversation, it's better, but I think it's at least worth introducing if you think there's a potential there. Also depends on that relationship. Is it good? But something to think about. Hey, Jeff, I've been watching your videos since October. When a Google recruiter reached out to me, I officially started Google at the end of March as a SWE. Thanks for everything you do. Oh my goodness. It's amazing to hear that SWEs are still getting hired. So that's awesome. I'm so glad you found my content helpful. And I always give the same response. First of all, thank you for coming in here and saying it. Like, it just shows people what's possible, but really pat yourself on the back. Like anybody can ingest content. It's taking the time to actually work through it and apply it. That's the hard part. So thank you. Okay, we are out of questions. I am going to go into my wrap-up phase, and then if any additional questions come in, I'm happy to answer them. If this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, one-on-one strategy sessions. That's resume and LinkedIn. I updated the interview mastery course to have AI modules in October. We're getting great feedback on those modules. So happy about it. More purchases. It's been awesome. And obviously my AI tool is my big push. That's my baby. That's where I want people to go. It's a 7-day free trial. There's no risk. You hate the tool, you don't have to pay for it. So try it out. Strongly recommend it. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific every Tuesday. New original long form content every Monday. Still got to push those shorts. And if you like what I did today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. And I'll be back next week. Thanks.